President Trump opened up Hump Day out west in California very early. I got up at 5 a.m. this morning to watch the president. Gave an hour and 15-minute address in Davos. I don't like Davos. I'm sorry that President Trump made Davos great again. It was dying, and I hope he doesn't go back next year. But he had to go this year to tell him he's not going to use force to get Greenland, and that made the markets turn around. That was good news. And otherwise, it was, if you watched the press conference yesterday, it was pretty much a repeat of the press conference, which is what you have to do to message in this world. You've got to say the same great news again and again and again. Although he did let slip he expects a 5% GDP growth in the first quarter. That would be something to see. Let's play that, in fact. Cut number 4.
Never seen before, perhaps no country has ever seen before. Over the past 3 months, core inflation has been just 1.6%. Meanwhile, fourth quarter growth is projected to be 5.4%, far greater than anybody other than myself.
That's wild. If that happens, that will be wild. Fourth quarter GDP. Now, the most memorable part is he did the Godfather bit on Greenland. He said, "I'm not going to use force, but I'm going to get it." And then he said, cut number 1.
So we want a piece of ice for world protection, and they won't give it. We've never asked for anything else, and we could have kept that piece of land, and we didn't. So they have a choice. You can say yes, and we will be very appreciative, or you can say no, and we will remember.
That's pretty classic Trump. All right, then he sat down in Davos for a couple of Q&A. Cut number 2.
Iran would, if we didn't take them out, they would have had a nuclear weapon within 2 months. They were very close to having the nuclear weapon, and we hit them hard. And it was a total obliteration. If they may try again, but they're going to have to try from a different area because that area was obliterated. Incredible thing we did. And because we did that, we were able to make peace. If we didn't do that, I would say, Jared and Steve, if we didn't do that, there was no chance of making peace because the countries I just named and other countries could have never signed off. They were afraid. They were afraid. We had a bully. The bully was Iran, the bully of the Middle East. They used to call it for years. They were the bully of the Middle East. They're not the bully of the Middle East anymore.
He should still hit him again. I'll talk a lot about that. That's my column in the Washington Examiner today. I'm going to read it in drive time so that people inside the Beltway hear it, to advise the president we should hit Iran hard. They murdered 15,000 of their citizens in cold blood in the streets last week. They ought to be punished for that. Remember when he said, "We will remember"? He got a question about that, and they sit down, gaggle, cut number 7.
You said you would remember if Denmark did not agree to a deal on Greenland. What did you mean? What are the consequences?
You'll have to figure that out for yourself. You're a smart guy.
Yeah, that's pretty good. All right, let's go to the Supreme Court. They were arguing today whether or not the president can fire members of the board of Federal Board of Reserve, the Federal Reserve Board. And Paul Clement, best lawyer in America, was arguing on behalf of the board member, Lisa Cook, who does not want to be fired. Here's Sam Alito and Neil Gorsuch talking about it. Cut number 14.
We have in this particular case is that I think the president was proceeding on the understanding of the statute that's faithfully represented here by the Solicitor General, which is he wasn't acting like a removing authority that was subject to any due process. Because if he were sort of subject to that, he wouldn't have said in his opening tweet, "You must resign," and he wouldn't have said 2 days later, "Resign or be fired."
Does that mean it has to be a body of disinterested decision makers?
No.
People who are not part of the executive can exercise independent judgment that way? No? Then
No.
What does it require?
It requires just what I said: notice, an opportunity to provide evidence, and a decision maker who hasn't prejudged the issue. That decision maker can be the president. I mean, I'm not sure I necessarily recommend it as my choice A, but
how can it not be the president? The statute authorizes the president to make the removal decision. How could it be anybody else?
Well, look, I mean, if you believe in the unitary executive theory, then anybody that makes the removal decision is acting on the president's power. I think it would work. I think the way it worked for Taft is the tribunal made a recommendation and then Taft executed.
Right.
So it was the president making the decision.
The president has to make the decision. or delegate it to somebody who he wishes to make that decision,
Yes.
who's reportable to him.
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
At will.
At will. Yeah.
Right. Absolutely.
Okay.
I mean, and the president can be the final decision maker, but if he's going to be the final decision maker, and there's a due process right, and I mean that statutory or constitutional, then he needs to be a little bit careful and say these are the allegations. He can't start by prejudging the issue by saying resign.
With all due respect to Mr. Clement, who's been good to the show, been on the show before, smartest guy you hire if your business is on the line, you go in the Supreme Court, is Paul Clement. He's good at it. He was the 10th Justice. He was Solicitor General. Cut number 10 on this question about removing Lisa Cook or any other board member from the Federal Reserve. Cut 15.
Would be for cause, but none of it would matter because there'd be no judicial review.
Well, on the question of what is for cause, what the district court held was that it must relate solely to in-office conduct. And you defend that with one caveat that if the office is indicted while in office for pre-office conduct, then that might be cause for removal because a person under indictment wouldn't be able to devote full attention to the job. But other than that, you defend the district court's holding. Is that correct?
We do defend the district court's holding on that, and I would understand that is the rule for all the statutes that have INM.
There's nothing when under a for-cause removal standard, there is no pre-office conduct that could constitute cause.
That is my frontline response. I happen to have a backup argument, which is if you pick up the common law, then you would pick up.
Well, let's take your frontline argument first and how far you're willing to go. Suppose that the office holder was permitted to resign from a previous non-disclosure agreement based on long and egregious pattern of sexual misconduct. That would not be for cause. That would not be cause for removal.
So what I would say, Justice Alito, is I don't think that would be INM. And so if I'm going to stick to my frontline position, then that would not be for cause. It would certainly be a basis for impeachment. And I think in understanding why we've had INM for at least 90 years.
All right, I understand your position. How about if after the person assumes office, those are disclosed in which the office holder is expressing deep admiration for Hitler or for the Klan?
I can only imagine where these typos are going to eventually go, Your Honor.
Well, yeah, because your position.
I'm going to stick with my position. Of course, I'm going to stick with my position. And I'm going to say that's an official that would be impeached in a heartbeat. And the fact that they would be impeached in a heartbeat is going to cause them to resign in half a heartbeat. And this has not proven a problem. I mean, for better or for worse, whatever you think of Humphrey's executor, we've had 90 years
Mr. Clement, what's your backup argument?
My backup... My backup argument is the common law standard.
That was the Chief Justice, and Dwayne didn't put on the cut sheet that he came in with that. That's pretty funny. But the Chief Justice, what's your backup argument? In other words, you're not doing so well here, Paul. And they're buddies. Look, the Supreme Court bar is 20 people, and then 40 people in line to join the 20 who are already there, begging to get a case. So the Supreme Court bar knows the justices know the Supreme Court bar, and they all know Paul Clement, with perhaps the exception of Justice Brown Jackson, who's the most recent justice. I don't think she was there long enough to really know him. But the chief is very confident in his role, as is every member of the court. And that's pretty funny. What's your backup argument? All right, cut number 16, Clarence Thomas.
Concern for independence. Could the removal statute have been written, as others have been written, to require a hearing and review?
So it could have been, Justice Thomas, in the interpreting statutes, could have, should have, would have, right? But I think that you have to give faithful interpretation to what Congress actually did. And I think if you understand the original public meaning of for cause in either 1913 or 1935, I do not think it was as capacious as my friends suggest. I think it probably meant INM plus ineligibility, and in the context of the Fed in particular, it probably picked up Section 244, prevents a federal governor from also serving as a director and an officer of a bank. So if there were a Fed governor that insisted on being a director of Chase Manhattan, I think that would be removal for cause. And then on the context of the hearing, and I think Justice Kagan already alluded to this, but there are all these statutes about INM that don't mention a hearing, and there are many statutes that talk about cause and don't mention a hearing. Now, it's true that the NLRA, which was passed a month before, did specify a hearing. But I think it would be a mistaken statutory interpretation to make that one express reference to a hearing sort of
I don't think Paul Clement did
the
very
other
well
ones.
today, but we'll see. I have no idea whether or not he's going to keep Kavanaugh and Barrett, Roberts and Barrett with the three liberals who want to protect, don't like the unitary executive. I want to introduce you to the man with the impossible task. Chairman, sorry to say it that way, Representative Jason Smith, the chairman of the House Ways and Means Committee, has the impossible task of getting a second reconciliation through the House Republican caucus with losing only 2 votes. Can it be done, Mr. Chairman?
Hugh, it's great to be with you. I said all along that we needed to do one big, beautiful bill to put as much of the items we could possibly get in to deliver the president's campaign promises for the American people. It is very, very difficult. Very, very difficult to do 2 reconciliation bills. And when you can only lose 2 people and one member of our conference is going to be a no on, whether you support oxygen,
Yes.
that creates a very, very
Let me guess.
tough
Is his
dynamic.
name, I want to do Kreskin, is his name Massey? Yes. Yeah, go ahead.
I won't be saying any names, but
right.
I will just say that the records, the voting records speak for themselves. But it is so important that the American people know what we have delivered in the big, beautiful bill. I have folks all the time when I travel across the country that's like, I didn't know that there was these investment accounts that are for new children born in America, or I didn't know that you could do 100% expensing on new machine sheds that's built in America. I mean, there's so many things that people don't know about. We need to do a better job at explaining what was in the first reconciliation bill before trying to debate of whether there should be a second one.
Well, there is the debate. So I just want to test some things out on you because you remember when they have the crossed axes and Robin Hood has to shoot the arrow through the crossed axes. So you got to get the arrow through about 20 cross axes. What do you think about a tax credit for first and last month's rent? Because we're talking about an affordability issue. We got to hit young people. We got to hit people who don't have a lot of money. How about a tax credit for first and last month rent for an apartment?
We've been working with the administration on all kinds of different tax ideas and proposals about housing affordability. This is one of the items that I've heard people discuss. Tax credits, though, are not very popular. Tax deductions, they're a little bit more doable. So it's different items that we can look at. But I mean, just even looking at the depreciation schedule, that could have a huge impact on housing. But there's so many different things to look at, whether allowing people with their 401k to use that as a down payment on purchasing a home. There's numerous things we can be looking at and that we are discussing. But all those housing things that we just brought up, those could be done in a bipartisan tax bill. There's no reason why it has to be in a reconciliation bill because I believe
the Democrats aren't going to give you any more wins. They're not, because I've gone through the tides of House seat losses in the second term of a Republican president. Eisenhower lost 49 seats in 1958. Ford lost 48 seats in 1974. Reagan only lost 5 seats in 1986, but W lost 30 seats in 2006. So the tides are not with you, right? So to deliver something to the youngs would be big. I'm not arguing here for the relief for seniors and let them get their money out of the 401ks and the IRA. That was smart for the first round, but this has to be for young people. So if you're going to do it, when would you have to get started on persuading people?
So part of the discussion too, Hugh, is when I was referring to the 401ks, some of the discussion that's going on is allowing parents to utilize part of their 401k for down payments for their kids, to try to get more home ownership. First time home ownership went from 32 years old when Trump was last president to today, it's 40 years old is the average age of a first-time home buyer. We have to break that cycle, and we need to look at all different aspects to do it. But I do believe that you can find the right policies, craft the right language, and force the Democrats that they have no other alternative than to vote for it. We've done that on numerous things within the House. I think we can do it on some housing affordability issues as well.
Let me suggest one on that. I used to be a land use lawyer, Mr. Chairman, so I know that in certain states like Florida, New York, California, the appreciation of houses that have been held for 20 years is way over $500,000. It just is. And so $1 million house is now a $3 million house. So no one can sell that house until they die and the basis steps up. Why don't you increase the exemption from $500,000 to $1.5 million or something like that in order to get more houses on the market, increase supply, and drive down prices?
Hugh, you're hitting all kinds of different tax provisions that our committee members have been discussing, along with members who's not on the Ways and Means Committee. So it definitely is of interest to a lot of people. Of course, that hasn't changed in decades, like you pointed out. And a lot of times you have to update the tax code.
All right. Last thing I want to talk to you about, and this has to be bipartisan. And I think you're right to go out and talk about all the good things. That's what the president did at Davos for an hour and a half today. He did at the press conference yesterday for 2 hours. California, I've only been back here for a couple of weeks. I got a few more weeks to go. They're bankrupt. They don't know it. They're a zombie state. They have unfunded pension liabilities are through the roof that Gavin Newsom's running into the ground. We need a chapter in the bankruptcy code for states. We have them for local governments, like Detroit's used it and San Bernardino County. We don't have a code chapter for states. Is that something you'd ever tackle?
That is not something within the Ways and Means Committee jurisdiction, but I have not heard myself any conversation in regards to going after that approach. I just wish that states would get their fiscal house in order. Unfortunately, we see a lot of them spin like drunken sailors, but it's crazy.
It's not recoverable in California. I did the math when I got out here, and it's actually, they can't do it given the contracts that they've entered into with their public employee unions. So, Mr. Chairman, when will you make the decision, go, no go? The Speaker's got to come back from London and take a victory lap for his great speech in front of the Parliament. But when do you sit down and decide, go, no go on a reconciliation try? Realizing you can lose one member, that's impossible. Wow. One member.
Yeah, that's a decision, Hugh, of leadership. Before a reconciliation package can even start being crafted in my committee, the budget committee has to pass a budget resolution laying out the parameters of the reconciliation. And so that is the first step throughout the process before it can even come to us. So I just don't believe, though, Hugh, that there's a pathway for that.
I'm glad to hear you say that. I don't want to waste time majority. On it. That's very useful. You were and thank goodness you were out there arguing for one big, beautiful bill, because it's only gotten harder. You need a majority of 20 or so to get two of them done, and it's not there. But thank goodness you're here to sell the rest of it and to make sure the tax code, maybe you can get the housing thing through. Who knows? Because that exemption hasn't changed in forever. Chairman Jason Smith, thank you so much for joining me today from the House Ways and Means Committee, great member from the Show Me State in Missouri, and we are lucky to have him there running Ways and Means. Don't go anywhere, America. I'll be back with House Conference Chair Lisa McClain in a segment or two. Don't go anywhere. Stay tuned to the Salem News Channel or head over to my YouTube channel, Hugh Hewitt and YouTube. Like and subscribe, please. President Trump has called off tariffs over Greenland, and the markets are up a little bit in response, about a half hour out from the close. The Dow Jones Industrial Average is up 1.19%, S&P 1.15%, NASDAQ 1.16%. That's about half of what the Dow and the S&P lost yesterday. It's not half of what NASDAQ lost yesterday. President sat down for a gaggle afterwards and another presser. Here's a part of the gaggle, cut number 8. Oh, it's freezing on me a little bit, probably because it's coming from Switzerland. And cold tape is never easy. I'm making that up, of course. Technical glitches are not my strength. How about cut number 9? It's all freezing, so I won't go to any of that stuff. Instead, I will go to what I'm going to read it in full in the third hour, but the piece that I did for the Washington Examiner today is should Donald Trump hit Iran, will he? Or will Donald Trump hit Iran, should he? And it's extended argument for him doing it and doing it soon. I don't know if the Lincoln Carrier Group is within range of Iran yet. I assume that it's been a week since the massacre of the at least 15,000 people in the streets done by the Iranian Republican Guard Corps, done by Iraqi militia speaking Arabic, done by Afghan Taliban fighters who were brought in for the purposes of massacring good Iranian people. And I don't think that should go unpunished. It's the most brutal demonstration of indifference to human life that we've seen in a long, long time. And they were no threat to anybody. And these young people got just mowed down. It's like Tiananmen Square. That's the parallel. And we ought to make sure that it never happens again. Over at the Wall Street Journal, it does say, the breaking news there is Trump calls off tariffs on Europe over Greenland, and that he won't use force to acquire Greenland, and cites the concept of a Greenland deal and gives some background on Greenland. This is Greenland's 15 minutes of fame. We do need it. Mark Rutte is the NATO Secretary General. He and Trump had a talk about it. The reason we need it is the 230-mile exclusionary zone, which the Danes can't protect with their nice little fleet of 20 ships, but it's 230 miles out from every inch of the 27,000 miles of coastline. You can prohibit passage in there. You can't prohibit passage in there. You're allowed to pass through it, but you may not fish, explore, or otherwise set up the sort of stations, platforms that could threaten your Golden Dome. There are a lot of reasons to make sure that the 230 miles is, in fact, taken care of. Let me do my Relief Factor while we're standing by. Relief Factor is, of course, the sponsor of the studio. I take it every day. I didn't take it today because I got up early to do Fox and Friends, but the president went long, and, of course, they stuck with him. To do America's Newsroom, and they stuck with him, which was the right news choice. So I went back to bed and didn't wake up enough time to go up the implacable hill. I carry in curcumin and resveratrol omega, and because I'm scheduled to do Fox and Friends tomorrow morning at 6:30 a.m. East Coast time, 3:30 out here in California, I'll do the same thing again. I might go up the implacable hill. I have the memorial service for my dear friend Linda this weekend, so I can't go for the long run on Saturday, but I can. It doesn't matter if you take a couple of days off, even if you take in Relief Factor on a regular basis for a long time, because your body isn't going to get all whacked out by 2 or 3 days off. I've already proven that this winter. Icarian and curcumin, resveratrol, and omega support the body's anti-inflammatory system. Good science, good product, easy to swallow, and affordable. $19.95 is the starter pack, less than $1 a day for the first 3 weeks that you get the Relief Factor in your body and get your levels up so that you don't seize up, you don't crack up, and you don't feel bad the next day. Whether you're swimming and running, whether you're going to the gym, whether you're doing Pilates or working out on your own, on the bicycle, and whatever else they call these things these days, go and try Relief Factor, 1-800-4 and the word relief. Let me tell you about my friends AndrewandTodd.com, AndrewandTodd.com, 888-888-1172. Andrew Del Rey and Todd Abakian did my mortgage twice. They've done Dwayne's mortgage. They've done mortgages for thousands of my customers, and I've never had a complaint. Thousands of my customers. That's because they're with Union Home Mortgage and they're the bankers. They're going to get you the best rate they can, depending on where you're buying, what your credit is, and how much you're putting down. There's so many variables. Anyone who advertises a rate is actually lying to you from the get because they have no idea what your credit score is. I'll tell you a little bit more about them at the end of the show, but I want you to start thinking about it because interest rates aren't going to come down for a while. So you want to go and get in and let them refinance you later, especially if you need to get money out of your house. 1-800-411-4454. No, excuse me. Oh, goodness. What a day. AndrewandTodd.com. AndrewandTodd.com. 888-888-1172. 888-888-1172. Representative Lisa McClain is chairman of the House Conference for the Republicans in the House. I should say chairwoman. Representative, welcome. It's great to have you on. I was just talking with Jason Smith about operating with a two-person majority, which is really one because Congressman Massey doesn't very often vote with us. What's the plan for this year? I know that the off years, and I'll run through the horrible math, Ike lost 49 seats in 1958. Ford lost 48 seats in 1974. Reagan lost 5 seats in 1986, and W lost 30 seats in 2006. So this is a second term, midterm, tough terrain, is it?
Yeah, it is. But you know what, Hugh? We've defied the odds to this point, right? I'm an optimist by nature, and I think we're on the right side of things. We are on the right side of the policies, and it's incumbent upon us to go out and do shows like yours and correct the truth with the other half of the truth, right? I think Americans vote with their pocketbooks, and with the work that we've done in the working families tax cuts, I think people are going to see real relief. They're already seeing some real relief, but we are going to continue to dig out of this disastrous mess that Joe Biden and the Democrats left us. And again, I'm optimistic. I mean, just compare and contrast the two parties. Goodness gracious.
Now, Congresswoman, I went to Michigan Law School, University of Michigan Law School. So the Michigan is deep within you. I hear it in your voice. How's that state looking in the off years up there in the governor? And Mike Rogers comes on a lot. And we talk about Mike. How do you feel about it?
You know, I feel pretty good. And I feel pretty good because we're doing everything right and we're getting out to vote. And if you take a look at the governor, I think we have a real shot of winning the governorship. For the first time, we have good candidates at the top of the ticket, and we have that. Not to mention that we have a pretty strong independent. He's the mayor of Detroit, and we're all betting that he's going to take more votes from the Democrats than he's going to take from the Republicans. So I'm optimistic about that. I'm also very optimistic about Mike Rogers winning the Senate. Look, we've cleared the field, and Mike Rogers is our candidate, where the Democrats are still fighting in the primary. That bodes very well for us. And who the Democrats are talking about and are favoring in the primary is the radical left-wing communism. I mean, the policies, the defund ICE, celebrate the criminals, the no law and order, the transgenders, all the crazy stuff. The Democrat Party in Michigan is just going way, way, way to the left. And I think people want common sense. And I think Mike Rogers bring that to the Senate.
I added a couple of new affiliates in Michigan on January 1. They're up in just on the lake, way up north, not on the UP, but on the other side. And so we're talking to all of the state. It's really a red state with a couple of blue dots, right? Michigan?
Oh, you got that right. You got that right.
And one of those blue dots is Ann Arbor. And so what do you do about the college campuses of the United States where they apparently don't teach economics anymore?
Well, the University of Michigan just got a new president, so I'm a little bit hopeful on that. It's their board of regents really that are, more left wing, and they need to really focus on educating students on how to think, not what to think. And my hope is that they will get back to doing just that. But I think you'll see a different landscape up there, too, with the unfortunate death of Charlie Kirk, or murder, I should say, of Charlie Kirk. Enrollment of Turning Point is growing. Growing Republicans, young Republicans at the universities are really sparking. So that's always encouraging and optimistic. And if we can get the SAVE Act on the floor and get voter registration, I think we clean up a lot of those voter rolls and have a really good election. It's going to be tight, right? We're not going to win by 20 points, but I think we'll continue to keep it red.
Let me turn over to the redistricting wars. I was reading one analysis today that says the Democrats, if you add it all up for everything that's been done to date, they're +1, assuming that California doesn't get thrown out by SCOTUS. and that we don't get the voting rights decision, and we don't see anything out of Florida, and we don't see anything out of Indiana. Is that your math?
If all of those things happen, but those are pretty pessimistic. So I think at the end of the day, we as Republicans will probably pick up two because I don't think all of those things will go in the Democrats' favor. I think what we really need to focus on, quite frankly, we are on the right side of the issues, Hugh. We are on the side of law and order. We are on the side of lower taxes for every American. We are on the side of common sense, for goodness sakes. That's what really is going to prevail. And the Democrats are just going so far to the left. I mean, we elected a socialist mayor in the city of capitalism, New York. I mean, let's give New York their world. Let's give them a real experience on what socialism or communism really looks like. And let's remember that when that doesn't work and they come begging for Congress for more money, because at some point in time, people want to get paid. So free buses. I think the bus drivers want to get paid. Gee, free grocery stores. You think the farmers want to get paid that sells their goods and services? Everything sounds good, but you know as well as I do, nothing in life is free.
Yeah, young people, though, I mentioned this to Jason Smith. Chairman Smith was on with me earlier. How about a tax credit for first and last month rent? That's really a rifle shot aimed right at the 21 to 30-year-old demo. Have we done anything for them, for the 21 to 30-year-olds that you can point to?
Yeah, I think we're doing a lot of stuff right now with interest rates, with home purchases, and the president is really focused on that. We haven't done a ton legislatively to do that, other than if you look at the no tax on tips and no tax on overtime, that will have a big effect on those young people as well. Because you look at a lot of those young people, they work while they're going to college, or they work, and they usually work bartending jobs or waitressing jobs. That will have a major effect on them as well, to keep the more money in their pocket and give less money to Uncle Sam.
Lisa McClain, chairwoman of the House Republican Conference. Always good to talk to you. Great to have a Michigander on. Although Ohio State did beat Michigan today, I do have to point that out this year.
You had to bring that up. You had to bring that up.
Of course I do. After the year before it, yes. After 4 in a row, yes. Of course I have to do that. And now we just go back and reset. We'll talk about again next year after the game. Again, we'll play up in the big house next year. Lisa McClain, good to talk to you. Going into the close, the Dow's up 1.2%. S&P almost as much. NASDAQ exactly the same. What I'm looking for is the 10-year. And the 10-year went up today to 4 and 32. That can't be right. That's a partial reading. It went up a little bit, so that means the 30-year fixed mortgage is 4 and 4.30. The 10-year is the bond on which your 30-year mortgage is based. So if it's going up, mortgage rates are going up. Not a lot, not a great deal, but it has to get below 4 to get mortgage rates below 6. So right now, if you're going to buy a home, you're going to pay above 6% unless you do something really extraordinary and put down half the cost of the home or something like that. I don't know because I'm not a mortgage banker. Andrew and Todd are mortgage bankers. AndrewandTodd.com, 888-888-1172, 888-888-1172. And since we were talking with Chairman Smith and Chairwoman McClain about houses and affordability and getting into them if you're young, I had not heard the proposal that parents be allowed to withdraw from their 401k in order to help their kids get a house. I hadn't heard that, but it makes a lot of sense to me. And because it's hard to get into a house. Houses are so freaking expensive. But if you're trying to work with someone who will give you every possible option, sometimes it's an adjustable rate. Sometimes it's a 15-year. Sometimes if you're a veteran, it's 0% down. Might make sense if you're a first-time home buyer to get the FHA loan. Might be a break. Freddie, Fannie, there's a world of mortgages out there, which is its own thing, which is why AndrewandTodd.com are specialists. I've known Andrew for 25 years. I missed the Bible study this morning because I'd fallen back asleep after getting up to do one of the early shows on Fox, and the president went long in Davos, and I was supposed to do the Bible study at the fixed hour, and I was snoring away because I had gotten up and then I went back to bed. And I'll do the same thing tomorrow because I'm going to do on Fox and Friends, which is even earlier, middle of the night in California time. But it's got a great audience, great hosts, love doing it. So I don't mind doing it. But if you're going to buy a house, whether or not Congress, don't wait for Congress to act. It'll be retroactive. If your parents are going to help you, they're going to help you, whether or not they can deduct it or not. It'd be nice if they could deduct it. They might be more inclined to do it. But whether you're buying a house for your own purposes, a rental, an investment property, a second home because you want to go fishing on the weekend up at the lake, start by calling andrewandtodd.com, 888-888-1172. Don't leave the mortgage for last. The mortgage comes first. Unless you're paying all cash, what you want to do is call up Andrew, tell him what you're going to do, 888-888-1172. Call up Todd, tell him what you want to do, 888-888-1172. Or simply go to their website, andrewandtodd.com. And if you're a senior citizen, 62 years and older, and living in your own home, and you want to get some money out of your house, but you don't want to make another mortgage payment ever again because you paid off your mortgage, that's a reverse mortgage. Andrew and Todd will do that for you as well. andrewandtodd.com, 888-888-1172. The big controversy, the family chat. Like that's my kids, their spouses, and their kids. Except the kids aren't allowed on it, but they know what we're talking about. They're supposed to go on a little family outing this weekend, but they live in Virginia. And if you have looked at anything having to do with the weather, you know the mother of all storms is supposedly heading. I don't know where it's heading. It's like the blob in the Steve McQueen movie from the 50s. It's just growing bigger and bigger. So it appears to be heading everywhere. And run for your life, run for your life. It's that stay calm video you see on social media sometimes. And I have no opinions. This is what I've learned. The easiest thing to have is no opinions. I don't care who asks me. I don't care which kid, which in-law. I don't care if any of the grandkids call me. I don't care if the fetching Mrs. Hewitt asks me. I have no opinions. I have opinions on everything. But don't get involved ever in a family discussion about whether or not to travel. This is advice I'm giving to you free of charge. Sometimes I do this. Second bit of advice, Town Hall's hired a new editor, Larry O'Connor. And Larry O'Connor has a little ham radio, and he does his own little show out of the basement in Maryland. And we've known Larry for a long time. Larry he's a very humorous fellow, wouldn't you say, Dwayne? Larry's a pretty humorous guy. He's got a ham radio thing going.
Yes, we do like Larry O'Connor a lot. He can be very funny at times.
We have his bongos.
His bongos are around here somewhere, yeah.
Yeah, so we've lost his bongos.
No, I got him. I got him right here.
Okay, so he came in. They're under, you don't want to see Dwayne's office. Larry has been promoted to editor. Can you show him the camera? That's why we have cameras. Larry bought his bongos, but I don't know if he's been smoking anything or doing edibles, but he left them. I'm not saying anything about Larry. I make no aspersions on him.
Not that there's anything wrong with that.
Not that there's anything wrong with that. Larry does act a little bit funny sometimes. But I have people are congratulating him because it's a big deal. And Town Hall's enormous, right? It's an enormous platform, has a lot of readership. You ought to be checking in on it. Dwayne writes for Harlier over there, and I'm always checking in. But Katie Pavlik got the brand new gig over at, I think, News Nation. And so she left us, and we're sorry. But Larry has stepped into her giant shoes. And they're heels, but Larry doesn't care. He knows Broadway.
Are you saying Katie had big feet?
I'm saying doesn't mind heels. Larry, not that there's anything wrong with that. I'm just saying that. And he got a nice ham radio thing going. And I want to put forward the proposition. His daughter is a proud graduate of the United States Naval Academy. And he goes, and he and Mrs. O'Connor they have a special name for it. They're a family in the area that take care of mids. They adopt a mid. They let them come over and stay on the weekend, park their car there, that kind of thing. They love the Naval Academy. They were great parents when their daughter was there. They go to every game. My email is flooded with Larry at the next Navy game, Larry at this Navy game, Larry at this. I think Larry has a cot over in Bancroft Hall. But it occurred to me, President Trump, anyone who's a Trumpist out there in the Trump White House who's listening, Larry O'Connor ought to be on the board of visitors of the United States Naval Academy. Now, he doesn't know anything about sports. He's a Michigan fan. And it blinded him long ago. He doesn't know anything about sports, but he's a pretty good ham radio operator. He's a fine talent for town hall. And our hat is off to Larry the Wonderful. He just doesn't know anything about sports. Now, back to President Trump. We've got our magic machine working. I want to remind you what he said about Greenland in the speech. Cut number 1.
So we want a piece of ice for world protection, and they won't give it. We've never asked for anything else, and we could have kept that piece of land, and we didn't. So they have a choice. You can say yes, and we will be very appreciative, or you can say no, and we will remember.
It's such a Trump line. Okay, now we go to cut number 7 to the post speech press conference. Cut number 7.
You said you would remember if Denmark did not agree to a deal on Greenland. What did you mean? What are the consequences?
You'll have to figure that out for yourself. You're a smart guy.
I don't understand why some people don't admit that he's funny. You might not like his policies, but the last time we had a big confab with all the international people, we had Joe Biden wandering over to see the parachute guy. Remember that? We had to get Prime Minister Moroni to go grab him and bring him back to the scrum. It was pretty bad by the end there. Then he gets told the Danish foreign minister has said no to his idea. Cut number 8.
Mr. President, the Danish foreign minister rejected your call to negotiate on Greenland. What will...
I didn't call him.
No, sorry. The Danish foreign minister rejected what you said in your speech, that you were hoping to negotiate to acquire Greenland, essentially saying that this is not something that they are willing to discuss. So what will those negotiations
Well, they
look
didn't
like?
tell me that, so when they tell me, because I don't like getting it secondhand. If he wants to tell me, he'll tell me that to my face.
And when will you be discussing this?
I have no idea.
When you said you
I'll be discussing it with this man right here.
Mr. President,
He's frankly more...
The first time he answered, Secretary Rubio is sitting on his left, and Secretary Bessent is sitting next to Secretary Rubio. They're both laughing. I didn't call him. So they're thinking, what are we cream cheese over here? We called him. But that's fine. That's fine. It was a fun day. Cut number 10.
And so many people in the audience, and I have this beautiful speech, page after page, and I just said, I just made a speech, and they were all here. They heard it one way or the other. And I said, the last thing we want to do is waste our time and hear it again. But I do want to say the people in this room are amazing. Most of you were in the other room also. And the United States is doing really well, doing like nobody thought was actually possible, certainly not this soon. It's 1 year. It's exactly a year. If you think about it, time flies. It's 25%. That's a long time. But it went very, very fast. We've had tremendous luck. I think it's been reported by even people that aren't lovers of Donald Trump that it's been maybe the best first year for any president. I think in terms of what we've accomplished, it might very well be. But we've accomplished a lot, including ending 8 wars. I have 1 to go. I thought that was going to be one of the easiest ones, and it's turning out to be one of the tougher ones. But you heard me say before, 25,000, 30,000 people are dying a month. It's ridiculous. And I think we're getting close. Jared's here, and Steve Witkoff is here. And a lot of people that are working on that are here, and they've done a good job. I think it could have gone into a world where if we weren't here, it was out of control. But I think we're going to get it resolved. And I'm doing it to save 30,000 people a month. If you can imagine your kid, take your son leaves home, waves to you, proud of him, he was so beautiful. And then 2 weeks later, you hear he had his head blown off fighting Ukraine or fighting Russia. It's both of them. The total are averaging 30,000, actually 30,000 young people, generally soldiers, a little bit in towns, but for the most part it's soldiers. Every single month they're dying. So I think we're going to do well there.
And then Scott Bessent talking about Gavin Newsom, cut number 12.
I think it's very, very ironic that Governor Newsom, who strikes me as Patrick Bateman meets Sparkle Beach Ken, may be the only Californian who knows less about economics than Kamala Harris. He's here this week with his billionaire sugar daddy, Alex Soros, and Davos is a perfect place for a man who, when everyone else was on lockdown, when he was having people arrested for going to church, he was having $1,000 a night meals at the French Laundry, and I'm sure the California people won't forget that. And I can tell my message to Governor Newsom is the Trump administration is coming to California. We are going to crack down on waste, fraud, and abuse. And I was told he was asked to give a speech on his signature policies, but he's not speaking because what have his economic policies brought? Outward migration from California, a gigantic budget deficit, the largest homeless population in America, and the poor folks in the Palisades who had their homes burned down. He is here hobnobbing with the global elite while his California citizens are still homeless. Shame on him. He is too smug, too self-absorbed, and too economically illiterate to know anything.
I don't think Scott Bessent's going to be on the Gavin Newsom podcast. I really don't. I also have just made a mental note. Do not upset the Secretary of the Treasury. Because I don't even know what Jason Bateman meets Sparkle Ken means, but it's funny. Oh, American Psycho? Okay, that's why I have a staff to fill me in on pop culture references with which I am unfamiliar. Mary Catherine Ham is with me. Mary Catherine Ham is the host of the Getting Hammered podcast and the Normally podcast. She is a sad SEC fan because the SEC was not anywhere to be seen in the College National Championship, which was won by the Big Ten for the third year in a row, Michigan, Ohio State, and now Indiana. Mary Catherine, do you think Georgia will ever return to the big game?
Yes, I do. The thing about being an SEC fan is that we don't need to ask Big Ten fans or Northwestern fans to constantly affirm us.
Well, we do, because after all the years we've been beaten up by the SEC because of the refs and ESPN, we need to remind people, level the playing field.
Mm-hmm. And I
Mary
just go,
Catherine,
we'll see you next year.
we'll see you next year. And I think we open with Texas next year, the Buckeyes. Only we're going to do it in Texas. So we'll start right away. Mary Catherine, President was at Davos today, gave the longest press conference in history yesterday. Well, maybe Chris Christie still holds that title. Put it all together. It comes down to we're not going to use force to take Greenland. Markets are happy. He thinks we have a great economy. I tend to agree with him. I also think he's done well in the first year, but I want him to hit Iran so hard that the eyes go back in their head and they're out. What do you think?
I'm with you on Iran. I thought it was interesting to watch everyone go gaga over the Canadian Prime Minister, Mark Carney, who's certainly a cut above Trudeau, but it feels very much like Obama nostalgia that they listened to this pretty cynical speech if you actually listen to the meat of it, but given this sort of lofty intellectual tone as compared to a Donald Trump speech and press conference, which is a very different animal. But what he was saying really was like, us middle powers, we're going to get together and we're going to tell everybody, we're going to become powerful somehow. We're not going to militarize or do the things we need to do or create the things we need to create. America will still do that. And then sort of like making false equivalents of China and Russia and the US as equal superpowers. It was odd to me. And I think there is something to the idea that what he was saying was like this old thing that we all understood as the world order was kind of fake. And now I'm just going to tell you that we're exiting it now that it's convenient for us to exit it. It was convenient for us the whole time, and now we've decided we don't like Donald Trump, and so we're out and we're going to say hi to China. And I just found the whole thing very off-putting.
I have to be very careful here because my daughter-in-law is Canadian, was born in Montreal, and my in-laws are Canadian, so they've naturalized Americans now. And now I say bonjour, hi, because they're from Montreal. But I want to point out, I didn't read Mark Carney's speech. I didn't watch Mark Carney's speech because I love Canada, love maple syrup. I really do. I don't think they matter much to us. We like their oil. They can send it to China, but if there ever comes a conflict, they'll be with us or they won't be with anyone, Mary Catherine. That's the reality.
Well, I think a lot of this is about reality is that Europe and Canada don't like the tone of Donald Trump, but the tone of Donald Trump is the only thing that's gotten any of them to spend money on defense, as the Secretary General of NATO pointed out at the World Economic Forum. And so even when I'm annoyed with Donald Trump's tone or saber rattling, I am reminded that I was incorrect about him and NATO the first time around, because that is what got people to take care of their business and to spend more money on defense. So I'm sort of two minds about his strategies on these things. And I think on the Greenland thing, this might be, heading toward attempting to get a deal by making a bunch of noise, as is often the case with him.
Now, tell me about Carney, whether or not he mentioned Operation Midnight Hammer or Operation Absolute Resolve, both of which helped the West, both of which helped Canada, the first one of which helps the world. Actually, we don't want, now that we know what Iran is capable of, we really are glad that they don't have a nuclear weapon, Mary Catherine. Did he mention that?
I don't think he mentioned that, no.
All right, so let's go back to Iran. What do you expect? And I know we're all guessing here. I think he's going to do something. I think we're going to see it because he does not want what has already surfaced online. Because A, it's the right thing to do, but B, he's also had to have seen online the taco stuff is already out.
Yeah. No, I think he is interested in protecting his own threat credibility, right? That is what he is powerful about him, is that people think he will act when he says he will act. He also was material in getting some folks out into the streets in Iran who paid the ultimate price, no doubt. And so I think, it is morally incumbent on him to do something. And I have a lot of faith that there was plenty of stuff going on behind the scenes that we're not seeing. But I think you're right, Hugh, that it would do the West and everyone a lot of good to take action and to make sure that that threat remains credible for all the other people who are watching, allies and
I'm going to
adversaries
test
alike.
your grisly math ability. This is a math question.
Oh.
Iran's got 92 million people. If Iranian-style execution of citizenry in the streets occurred in the United States, how many Americans would be dead?
What is it? What is it, like 10% of the population or something?
No, it would be 68,000 Americans. We're using 340 million Americans as the denominator and 92 million Americans, 15,000, and the X's would be above 360. I've worked it out for you there. You can go home and do the math. But that's what I like to point out. People who call Trump a fascist, people who call him dictatorial. Yeah. This is what a fascist regime actually does. It mows down 15,000 of its own people and imprisons 10,000 more. And I see the networks turning away. I got a Barry Weiss question coming up, but have you seen any coverage of the massacre since it wasn't front page?
There's very little, and I think it's because they don't know how to frame this. It's not part of the narrative that they want to tell, because the narrative they want to tell does not want to put what is, ICE raids in American cities next to actual fascism and what actual totalitarian societies look like, or Venezuelans talking about what actual totalitarianism looks like. I don't think that's a story that they want to tell. I think it's complicated, and I think the idea that Trump would be helpful to both of these citizenries is uncomfortable to many who cover the networks. And by the way, I went to the SEC. Don't ask me math questions.
All right, now I want to finish with Barry Weiss. I want to tell the audience again, I've talked with Barry once in my life. We tried to write a piece together like 10 years ago. It didn't work. And Barry's, I think, center-left, maybe very slightly left, but center-left. She's a good journalist. There's a story in Variety today that 10 people from CBS News think she's ruining it. Now, there are metrics, actually, for whether or not she's ruining it, because the audience already ran away from CBS, Mary Catherine. Can you believe Variety counted on 10 people and said she's going to destroy the network when, in fact, audience flight is what's destroying the network?
Look, I think it's so silly, this whole campaign to tell me that CBS News hiring a New York Jewish lesbian who just moved from LA is too far right for these people. Like, how far left do you have to be? I'm sorry. No, Barry is a curious, interesting, smart person, and the audience had already fled, and I am interested in what she's doing.
Yeah, so am I, and I hope she goes to I like Ed Whittaker. I met him. I like Ed. I worked with him. But I hope she goes and just turns over 60 Minutes into something completely new. That's the next stop. She's done Tony DeCopel. How'd you like Tony with the President? Did you watch it?
I like Tony a lot, and I've liked Tony since they dogpiled him over asking Ta-Nehisi Coates one hard question. So I think anyone who can do that and stand up to his network should stick around and do the hard work.
Well said, Mary Catherine Ham. Getting Hammered and Normally are her podcast. She is, unfortunately, an SEC gal, but we'll talk about that next year as the Big Ten begins its third year reigning atop all of college football. Thank you, MKH. I'm opening up the lines because of the Davos speech today, 1-800-520-1234. I don't often take calls, but I have a simple call. Are you better off today than you were a year ago? 1-800-520-1234. 1-2-3-4. You. I'm talking to you. Are you better off today than you were a year ago? Because he took office a year and a day ago. President Trump addressed that today, cut number 10.
And so many people in the audience, and I have this beautiful speech, page after page, and I just said I just made a speech, and they were all here. They heard it one way or the other. And I said, the last thing we want to do is waste our time and hear it again. But I do want to say the people in this room are amazing. Most of you were in the other room also. And the United States is doing really well, doing like nobody thought was actually possible, certainly not this soon. It's 1 year. It's exactly a year. If you think about it, time flies. It's 25%. That's a long time. But it went very, very fast. We've had tremendous luck. I think it's been reported by even people that aren't lovers of Donald Trump that it's been maybe the best first year for any president. I think in terms of what we've accomplished, it might very well be. But we've accomplished a lot, including ending 8 wars. I have 1 to go. I thought that was going to be one of the easiest ones, and it's turning out to be one of the tougher ones. But you heard me say before, 25,000, 30,000 people are dying a month. It's ridiculous. And I think we're getting close. Jared's here, and Steve Witkoff is here. And a lot of people that are working on that are here, and they've done a good job.
So we got a call. Dave in Surprise, Arizona, not better off than he was a year ago. What happened, Dave?
Well, the economy's really tough out here in State 48. It's actually worse than it was in 2020 for me.
Democratic governor.
What's that?
You have a Democratic governor.
Well, I don't think that she impacts job prospects here in Arizona very much.
Oh, your Chamber of Commerce, Danny's a friend of mine. He would tell you right now she's hell on wheels on your local economy. Of course, governors matter. That's why California's in the dumper because of Gavin. But
well,
how's your gasoline? Is it up or down?
What's that?
How's the price of gas?
Gasoline?
Yeah.
Gasoline is still 70% too high.
Well, that's not my question. Is it higher today than it was a year ago?
It is slightly lower than it was a year ago.
So you are? Do you drive?
22%.
So you drive?
Yeah, I drive. I have 2 cars.
So You're better off there than you were a year ago. You spent less on gas.
Well, I spend considerably less on gas because I don't have a job. I don't drive anywhere.
Well, what kind of job do you want?
I'm an accounting professional. I'm a former controller. I managed a $600 million revenue company in 2023 and 2024.
Well, you should get a job. People who can do numbers are actually necessary.
Yes,
How are you
sir.
looking?
I just LinkedIn and Indeed, sir.
Indeed, I don't know anything about LinkedIn. I would never go on because it's hacked all the time. Does it work for you?
It hasn't worked the last 6 months. My last gig was August of last year.
How old are you?
So
I'm allowed to ask that because I'm a radio host.
I'll be 56 a month from yesterday.
Oh, you're not too old. Do you dress nicely?
I do. I actually just had a second interview today, so God willing, I'll land this job.
Oh, that's very cool.
It's been a tough 6 months.
Where is the job close by?
It's not, but I'm willing to drive 50 miles from my door-to-door, and I've done that for the last 10 years.
Well, I genuinely will say a prayer for that. Will you call me back and tell me if you got the job? Because then you'll be better off today than you were a year ago.
Sir, yes, sir. It'd be my honor. Thank
you. Because you were about to get fired a year ago or lose your job or have the company close, and now you're about to get hired. You sound like you're a normal guy, and anyone who can do numbers normally gets a job in a hurry if the economy is cooking, and the economy started to cook. Do you think maybe people weren't hiring because they didn't know until the third quarter 4.2% GDP came in?
Yeah, that's why I think it's very similar to 2020. There's a lot of unknowns for people in this strategic planning business. Yes, sir.
Well, now it's getting very clear. If he's right and it's 5% GDP in the fourth quarter, you're going to be working, friend. Thank you, Dave. We'll say a prayer for that. Nancy in Montana, better off or worse off?
Oh, I'm much, much better. I tell you, I'm very impressed with President Trump and our economy. I'm psychologically happier.
Did you get an elk?
Huh?
Did you bag an elk?
Did I bag an elk?
Yeah. You're in Montana. Don't all you people bag elks up there?
Oh, no, I didn't bag an elk, but I tell you, I bagged a filet mignon from the meat counter here in my town, and I had that for lunch. I couldn't do that when Joe Biden was president.
Okay, well, that counts, but you get yourself a gun and go get an elk.
Okay, I shall do that. Thank you.
Make check on the season, please. I don't want Chuck Box calling me and yelling at me. I left my Chuck Box buck in the east. Did you get a galley, Generalissimo? Can I have the galley to read? Otherwise, Chuck can't come on unless you give me the galley to. What's the name of the book? We're having fun here today. Selena Zito is my friend and my guest. She joins us from Pittsburgh. How are you, Selena? Oh.
No, she's snowed. She's on the road. She's stuck. She's snowed in.
She's stuck in the storm?
Yeah, she's in the storm. She got stuck in it.
Oh, okay. I was going to ask her if there is Is she okay?
Yeah, she's just stuck coming up the hill to get home. She's probably at least an hour away from getting home.
Man, that is a nasty storm.
It wasn't even supposed to snow today, but everything moved north.
1-800-520-1234 connection to me. Bill in Pennsylvania. Are you in the storm too, Bill?
No, we're not getting it yet. We're in Beaver County.
Oh, it's coming. Wait, she's in Beaver County, isn't she? Okay, we never know where Selena is. Is Beaver County just north of Pittsburgh, right?
Yeah.
Home of Joe Namath.
Oh, yeah, right across the bridge.
I know. I'm from Warren, Ohio. We just keep you people out. We like you, but I know you people.
Oh, well, you'll have that.
Yeah. So are you better off today than you were a year ago?
Yes, and I called, not you, a negative show last week. They were squawking about coffee, right?
A negative show? Was it Gallagher? He's always negative. Mike Gallagher hates the president. You know, I don't know why.
I'm older. I'm retired. I don't have time. I got to clear, if it goes in and I don't need to keep it, it gets exit.
That's good.
I need them megabytes.
Okay, that makes sense. That makes sense to me.
But
Dwayne just blanked on the. Dwayne just did that on air in front of millions of people. He couldn't remember the name of C.J. Box's new novel, which is Crossroads. So it happened.
Did you see The View the other day?
The View? You were watching The View? No wonder you're worse off this year.
I have to tune in just to see how. No, we do it right. Or there's a group of us.
No, there's no right way to watch The View.
No, one records it. That way, only one is in the stat. And then we rewatch it taped.
With your buddies?
Yeah.
You have a View hate party?
No, not hate. We'd like to see them get a full table. That half table ain't
Don't you have elk there?
Do you ridicule them as you go along?
We had an Elks Club. Had a big moose out there.
No, he got that, Dwayne. Don't pay attention to him. He can't remember the name of books. Do you ridicule The View as it goes along?
Ridicule? I can't watch it.
Well, then, okay.
No, we have to see how insane they're getting. She
couldn't
pronounce. They had the King of New York.
I'm a little confused, Bill, because you said one of your gang tapes it.
Yeah.
And then you get together to watch it.
And put it in the machine.
Yeah.
That way they're not getting the review.
I get it, but you're still watching it.
Yeah, to see how insane they're getting.
Yeah, but that's not good for you. That's bad for you.
This one was real funny.
Well,
did you see? Look it up. It's there.
I am not going to watch The View, Bill.
Whoopi couldn't pronounce New York's mayor's name.
Oh, just say comrade.
Yeah.
Yeah, comrade.
Yeah, however, I'm thinking, we're all sitting thinking, remember when they said, hey, if you can't read the label
but
of a food
Bill,
product and
the
can't
question
pronounce
was, are you better off today than you were a year?
Absolutely.
Okay.
That's why I was getting with the coffee. They were bitching about coffee. I said, I love coffee. I'd rather pay more for coffee and less for gas.
That's exactly right. Although he got rid of the coffee tariff because we don't make coffee here, and I like coffee too, so he might as well. He got rid of that, by the way. So if they didn't mention that he got rid of the coffee?
Oh, no, that's what I'm saying. They were squawking about coffee like it was the end of the world.
Well, it's not the end of the world. It did make coffee go up a little bit, and I'm honest about that, but he got rid of it, and bananas. Yes, we have no banana. And thank you, Bill. I have to go back and correct for Dwayne. If I had a producer, he would keep the review copies that were sent to me. Crossroads by C.J. Box is the 26th Joe Pickett novel, and it's coming out soon, but I left my review copy. I get 3. CJ's very careful. He sends one to me wherever I might be, and they never get to me in California because Sticky Fingers Mrs. Dwayne always nabs them, and so I don't get them. So CJ, you're going to have to send it again to me because Dwayne is going to play hard to get on this thing. Don in L.A., how are you, Don? Hey, Don. Don, how are you?
There's millions of illegal aliens taken out of L.A. not out of, millions aren't taken up. He took out thousands. And he's doing a great job. So right on that score alone, I'm better off. I'm better off that Maduro's out of Venezuela. I'm better off that Cuba is shaking in their boots and the Iranians are on the ropes. So I'm still kind of skeptical about Greenland. I hope he's a businessman. Let's just make a deal. Let's not be
He took that off the table today. He said they're going to make a deal. Did you? But you're still paying $4.55 a gallon, right? That's what I paid.
But it's getting less. Like I use that rewards thing at Chevron, so I paid just under $4 a gallon. It's still too dang high, but better than it was.
Well. Don't move east. Move east if you want better gas prices. Let me ask you something, Don. You're a smart guy. Is he going to hit Iran?
I think so. He has to, because as Ms. Ham said earlier, he's very touchy about his credibility as being a tough guy. So he can't wimp out and not do anything after he went to the well several times. I think he's just, what was it Will Rogers said? Diplomacy is the art of saying nice dog while you reach for a rock. I think what he's...
I didn't know Will Rogers said that, but it's pretty good. I wish I'd said that. All right?
Yeah,
Don, thank you, friend. I want to remind everyone in the audience that diplomacy is the art of saying nice things when you reach for a rock. And you can quote me on that. When we come back, I don't think I've got anyone until Charles C.W. Cook, and I cannot wait to ask him whether he thinks Donald Trump's going to hit him. I will play you some more. Well, Donald Trump bulldozed Gavin. Do we have time to do that too? Cut number 3.
In another month, we'll have virtually no crime there. We can do that all over. We're going to help the people in California. We want to have no crime. I know Gavin was here. I used to get along so great with Gavin when I was president. Gavin's a good guy. And we're going to, if he needed it, I would do it in a heartbeat. I'd love to see. We did help them a lot in Los Angeles.
You see, that's how, because Gavin's not rotten, he's just wrong. Scott Bessent rolled him over, but President Trump was nice to him. I don't know why people get upset with President Trump. Consumer Cellular is a great sponsor of our program, and I want to tell you what their phone number is, 1-800-411-4454, 1-800-411-4454. They use the same cell towers as Big Cell. You can have the same service, but you can have savings. It's that simple. Save money every day. Make the switch to Consumer Cellular. Or you can go to consumercellular.com/Hugh and do the same thing. Takes about 20 minutes to switch. Keep your number, keep your data. But it's the same towers, all right? Don't believe Big Cell that you need Big Cell. You don't need Big Cell. Don't believe Billy Bob Thornton. Don't believe one of the brothers who I can't ever tell apart. They're all making $1 million ads. You know who pays for those ads? You know who pays for those ads? People who have unlimited data plans with Big Cellular pay for those ads. Consumer Cellular just wants me to tell you that this does not cost as much as a Billy Bob Thornton ad by a lot. And they're putting the savings to you, especially if you're 50 and older. Because you can get 2 lines, you and your spouse or you and a pal, 2 lines for unlimited data, $60, $60 a month. 2 lines. Keep your numbers, keep your names, contacts. If you're over 50, they want you as a customer. Moreover, whether you email and you want to begin a text exchange or you want to talk to someone at 1-800-411-4454, that individual will be alive. It will be alive, and you won't have to pay to talk to them. There's a cell phone company out there charging for service calls. So you can talk to an American, someone based in America. I can't say an American. They could have a green card. They will talk to you. One button touch. You're talking to a real person in America. You'll make the switch if you call. Get your phone bill out first. All right, do remember. 1-800-411-4454 or consumercellular.com/Hugh. And remember, if you use my name, Hugh, you get your second month free no matter what plan you get with them. Use my name, Hugh. That's the code. This is Relief Factor. I took it in hour number 1. I remind you in hour 2 and hour 3. Whether you're working out every day or every other day or every third day, whether or not you've got minor aches and pains or you just don't want to get them, whether or not you're a great athlete or you're an armchair quarterback who got all your exercise jumping up and down for the Hoosiers on Monday night, whatever it is, Relief Factor will work for you. But you got to let it try it for 3 weeks. That's why they made the starter pack at less than $1 a day, $19.95 for a 3-week supply of Relief Factor. 3 packets a day for the first week, every day. 2 packets a day, every day of the second week, and then you're on the 1 packet a day. Only supplement I've taken for more than 20 years. I just turned down another supplement ask. Hosts on the Salem Radio Network and the Salem News Channel get a lot of offers to endorse, and I don't want to endorse what I don't use. And therefore, Relief Factor. I take it every day, and I take it because it works, not because they're a sponsor. 1-800, the number 4 and the word relief, 1-800-4RELIEF, or go to their website, find that starter pack there as well at relieffactor.com, relieffactor.com. During the break, I was amusing myself with storm porn. That's when one of the weather channels, or all of the weather channels, and every forecast model available, they're out of hurricanes for the year. So they can't do any hurricanes. And cold weather doesn't really get people excited, but a big snowstorm, that gets people excited. And this is the snowstorm that is aimed directly at the Beltway. Delaware, Maryland, Virginia, DMV. And as one poster said, forecast 1 to 78 inches of snow, possibly expected maybe. That's the way it is with snowstorms inside the Beltway. But if it is one of those that has freezing rain mixed in, and that happens every 10 to 20 years, it is a nightmare beyond nightmare. I drove from our little apartment when we were first married with the fetching Mrs. Hewitt and her wonderful sister. We were driving from Connecticut and Calorama, where we had our first little apartment, in the beautiful Envoy apartment building, which is still there and still full of roaches. And we drove from there to Vienna. Took 7 hours, about a 20-minute drive. And why? Because once the freezing rain begins to fall, cars begin to spin out because they can't see it. It's black ice. And they're not from Ohio, and they don't know how to turn into a skid, and they don't slow down. You got to creep when it's freezing rain. You just got to creep. And it just became nobody moved, nothing. I eventually got out and pushed cars off the road and did all that kind of stuff back in the day when I would stupid enough to get out and push cars off the road trying to be a good Samaritan. But if that hits, it will be the only thing. We could attack Iran tonight, and the 101st Airborne could deploy, and we could get into a simultaneous conflict with Denmark over Greenland, and the Beltway would be looking at the weather reports. They are the craziest people about weather of anywhere. I've lived all over the country. California, New York, lived in Michigan, a lot of weather, right? A lot of weather. They are the craziest people about weather in the Beltway. So I will keep you posted. Next, update from Trey Yingst, Fox News defense correspondent. I think he's reporting from Israel. Can we play it?
Sandra, good afternoon. We start with this breaking news. Iran's Kurdistan Freedom Party tells Fox News their military wing in Iraq came under fire overnight in a drone attack that was launched by Iran. You can see in this exclusive video provided to Fox News one of those drone impacts at a base in northern Iraq. There was a significant amount of damage at this location. The Kurds of western Iran have resisted the Iranian regime and their crackdown on protesters, but they've paid a heavy price for doing so. There are very close links between the Kurds in western Iran and in northern Iraq. Now, the war of words between the U.S. and Iran is heating up as we break this story to you today. It comes as President Trump has made clear that a military option is still on the table, and reports from inside Iran indicate the regime has no intention of changing its ways. Thousands of protesters from north, east, and west Iran remain in prison, though the demonstrations have largely stopped over safety concerns. Still, Iranian leadership continues to threaten and mock President Trump.
We do not pay attention to Trump's bluster. He knows that if any hand is raised to assault our leader, we will not only cut off that hand decisively and courageously, and this is not just rhetoric, but we will set their world on fire. We will strip them of any security and leave no safe place for them.
As regional tension rises with Iran, President Trump is advancing his Middle East peace initiative. The Board of Peace signing ceremony is set to take place on Thursday morning in Davos. More countries are now weighing in, greenlighting their participation, including Israel. The office of Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu released a statement today on X saying, quote, Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has announced that he accepts the invitation of U.S. President Donald Trump and will become a member of the Board of Peace, which is to be comprised of world leaders. President Trump has floated the idea of totally replacing the UN entirely with his board.
Do you want your Board of Peace to replace the UN?
Well, it might. I mean, the UN just hasn't been very helpful. I'm a big fan of the UN potential, but it has never lived up to its potential. The UN should have settled every one of the wars that I settled.
They didn't. Trey Yinks is also backed up by reporting online that there are some fractures within the Iranian security forces, which does not surprise me. When you gun down 15 to 20,000 people, 15,000 is the low number. They're going to have brothers and sisters and cousins and mothers and fathers and daughters and sons. And everyone's going to know. You gun down 15,000 people, everybody's going to know somebody. And that does not pass quietly into the night. It's in the water now. What Donald Trump said about Iran today at the World Economic Forum in Davos is cut number 2.
Iran would, if we didn't take them out, they would have had a nuclear weapon within 2 months. They were very close to having the nuclear weapon, and we hit them hard. And it was a total obliteration. If they may try again, but they're going to have to try from a different area because that area was obliterated. Incredible thing we did. And because we did that, we were able to make peace. If we didn't do that, I would say, Jared and Steve, if we didn't do that, there was no chance of making peace because the countries I just named and other countries could have never signed off. They were afraid. They were afraid. We had a bully. The bully was Iran, the bully of the Middle East. They used to call it for years. They were the bully of the Middle East. They're not the bully of the Middle East anymore.
Not in the least. All right. I asked in the first hour, I've got Charles C.W. Cook and Sarah Bedford coming up, and then I want to read my column on will President Trump strike Iran and should he from today's Washington Examiner. But I want, and that will be towards the end of the hour, but I want to get a couple more calls. Are you better off today than you were a year ago? Steve in New York. Where are you in New York, Steve?
Hey, how you doing?
Good. Where are you?
I'm on Long Island, New York.
All right. Good to have you.
Just outside of New York City, which is going down fast.
Are you a Jets or Giants fan?
I'm a Jets fan.
You poor man.
Either way, Jets or Giants, it's tough being a New York fan.
Well, yeah,
you know?
it's tougher to be a Jets
fan.
fan.
Be a Buffalo fan.
Well, that's tough too. McDermott's a good coach. I hope he ends up with the Browns if they don't hire Jim Schwartz, which they should do. Go ahead.
You know,
are you better off or worse off?
I would have to. I'm kind of thinking worse off because I'm near New York City. But my problem is not so much financial, although I pay for Medicaid while illegals get everything free. But my problem is 3 days after January 6th, people were in prison. It's a year, and I don't see Schiff in prison. I don't see Hunter Biden in prison. I don't see Schumer in prison. These are criminals that should be there, and they're not.
No, he's not doing that. He's not going to gin up criminal prosecutions. He's all about making the economy big. And are you financially better off? Are you financially better off?
What about the people? What about what these people have done to us?
I know, but I'm talking about economic dollars and cents.
Fauci has done.
Are you in? Okay, thank you, friend. Steve sounds like this is why I don't do callers very often. Steve in Orlando. Hi, Steve.
Hi, Hugh. How are you?
Good.
Good. I'm worse off.
Why?
I own an import business.
Oh, what do you import?
Stationary greeting cards and toys.
Where are the toys from China?
They are.
You're
yes.
screwed.
I am.
We don't want your toys.
I'm on the verge of bankruptcy. Had to lay off 8 people.
What are you going to do? Because we're not going to drop those. Even if the Supreme Court reverses the tariff power, and I don't think they will, they'll leave the China tariffs in place.
No, I mean, the toy side is going to go away. It's the other side that we're trying to pivot to U.S. printing. But the people we've talked to don't have capacity, don't have people ready to run presses. And so
how many cards do you do a year?
How many cards do I do a year?
Yeah, are you doing greeting cards? Or are you doing stationery?
Greeting cards. We do.
Man, I have the artist for you. I do have the artist for you.
You do. I need production. I got artists. I need production.
No, she produces them. They're in Maine. She makes them all herself. But you probably need how many?
Well, we do millions. We sell to large retailers, and the problem is when you take a PO from a large retailer, you have to honor the PO at that price. When the tariffs hit last year, they came in.
Ooh.
Nobody could plan for them, so you get hit with a 30%, 50%. I had a shipment came in 150% tariff, and you have to pay up front when it lands. You don't get dating on it. You don't get timing on it. So it's cash going out the door, and I've had to lay off 8 people.
Well, this explains why prices haven't gotten up, because you had a guaranteed contract on delivery.
Exactly.
So you ate it.
And so then, to make it worse, you couldn't plan for our biggest holidays, Christmas and Valentine's Day, so our customers wrote down their orders. And so, we're in this cycle of trying to recover from that and trying to pivot.
Well, you're legit. I feel your pain. You're legit. The tariffs did punish some American importers, and I found one. That's a legit complaint. That's why I don't like tariffs, except on China. But the toys, don't go back there, Steve. We're not going to buy stuff from China for a long, long time, but you know that. Thank you for a great call. Joined by Charles C.W. Cook. You can follow him on X at Charles C.W. Cook with an E on the end of that. He is the senior writer at National Review. His podcast carries his name, Charles C.W. Cook. He is a Jacksonville Jaguars fan, and I'll get to the serious stuff, but first, season's over. The Cleveland Browns have the Jaguars' 24th pick in the draft. We're going to take an offensive lineman with that. I'd be willing to bet my life. Are you happy with the trade a year later?
Yeah, I think so. I didn't expect us to go 13-4, which was a reversal of the previous year, which was 4-13. So I'm pretty sure the Browns didn't expect that either. If you told me that at the beginning of the year, I'd have been astonished. Of course, I was upset when we lost in the wild card, but it was to the Bills, and Josh Allen is a pretty good player.
And McDermott shouldn't have been fired. I am actually happy with 24 because we were so bad we have 6 in 24. So we can get a wide receiver and an offensive lineman in the first round so everybody wins. Now, I don't want everyone to win in Iran. I have a column in the Examiner today. Should President Trump hit Iran? Will he? And I think he should, because to murder 15,000 people, low-end estimate, in the streets by the regime ought not to go unpunished. What do you think, Charles?
Yeah, that's certainly one way of looking at it. I don't disagree with you. If the aim is merely to be punitive, I worry that we would not be able to affect the change that we want. I also worry a little bit that we promised that we would help in Iran, and all those brave people went out in the streets, and then we didn't for whatever reason, and then 15,000 of them were murdered. I'm not against hitting them for what they did on human rights grounds. What I really want is for a shift in Iran's government. And I was more hopeful than I had been for a long time, although I was still pretty skeptical because I keep being promised this and it never happens.
You know, Charles, I'm going to put the argument forward that we can't put the people in the streets who got shot on Trump's promise because their internet was down. I think they went to the streets like they did in 22 and 2009 because they hate this regime. They've just never been met with machine guns and weapons of mass destruction this way. And I want a punitive. I don't think you can do regime change from the air, and we aren't sending troops in. But we can do to Iran what he did to Syria twice, which was to communicate to Assad, you use the chemical weapons and we will blow up buildings that you want. And I don't know why we don't hit Karg Island. I've had a friend of mine in the business tell me that could get the Chinese involved rebuilding it, and they need that oil. But that's what I would blow up. What would you blow up?
Well, I don't know. I don't know enough about how this works. I think that our last target was overdue, that obviously being the Iranian nuclear program. I'm not a military strategist. As a sort of foreign policy question from a perspective of a citizen, I'm quite happy to make them squeal for what they've done. I think you make a good case. I'm not blaming Trump, just so we're clear. I'm just saying that I hope that's not what happened.
Oh, I get you.
hope that there weren't people who went out there and thought, if we push over the top this time, there will be support coming from the United States, and then there wasn't. I don't think Trump can be blamed for that, but I just hope that there weren't people who thought there was help coming that wasn't.
And I want him to follow through on a spoken promise because other people will hear other things in the future. He said it to me. He said it to Sean Hannity. He said it to Tony Ducopel. He said it online 8 times. I think he said help is on the way or some variation. So I think he has to follow through. Now, Greenland. We began yesterday with the demand and a promise of a tariff. That was reiterated in the speech. It was walked back in the presser, and then it was definitively walked back in the president's exchange with Joe Kernan, which you and I listened to off air without specifics. What do you think? Did Trump walk himself back, or does he have a real deal?
No, I think he walks himself back. I'll take this from the beginning. I think that the notion that the United States would benefit from acquiring Greenland is solid. It's been in American minds since the mid-19th century when Seward was doing the Alaska deal. He also wanted to take Greenland, and Harry Truman famously tried to buy the place in 1946. So the idea you hear from some people that this is Trump being crazy or that this is a complete distraction based on nothing is wrong. I also think if we weren't so much in debt, that buying it would be well within the tradition of American foreign policy. So I am very open to the idea. But I think that Trump's behavior in the last 3 or 4 days has been erratic and bizarre and indefensible. I think that even muttering about invading, I know he's walked that back now, is counterproductive. I think that putting tariffs on allies, I know he's not going to do that now, but that was the threat and the markets responded, is crazy. And I think ultimately he has backed off here and pretended that there is some sort of deal that there's not, at least not that alters the status quo in ways that would satisfy those of us who think this is a good idea, is a reaction to the bond market and the economic fallout from these threats rather than to a real change in diplomacy.
Okay, my prediction is going to be the Danes are going to agree that he can interpret the military treaty in existence expansively, extend it for many, many years, and commit to the United States the protection of the exclusive economic zone of 230 miles around their 27,000 miles of shoreland so we can keep the Chinese fishing fleet out from destroying the Arctic fishing ponds. But we will see. Charlie, generally speaking, are you better off today than you were a year ago?
Yes, I think I am. How are we measuring that?
Anyway, I just put it to the audience.
Legally?
I just got a call from a guy in Orlando who's an importer of toys from China and greeting cards from around the world, and he had to lay off 8 employees. He's crushed. That's actually somebody I believe. He spoke like a guy. I really believe him. But if you buy gasoline and you're a trucker, you're better off today than you were a year ago. So I usually think in economic terms.
Yeah, I have been and continue to be outspoken against the tariffs. I think with the exception of those on China, they're counterproductive. I don't believe the president has the legal authority to impose them. I don't know if the Supreme Court will uphold that or not, but I am of the view that the interpretation of IEPA is wrong, and as a non-delegation guy, I'm not sure IEPA is constitutional. So I do believe that your interlocutor is suffering, as many are. But yes, I am better off. I'm also better off because I can plan better for my future, given the renewal of the tax cuts from 2017. And that was not just important financially. You cannot have the largest tax increase in American history, which was the alternative. But making those permanent and also adding in things like full expensing for businesses just allows a level of economic planning and assumptions that are really important. Add into that the deregulation that the president's been engaged in, which is good. I think I am better off. I think he's made a lot of mistakes, but overall, I think I am.
And have you listened to yesterday's argument before the Supreme Court, wherein Justice Brown Jackson introduced the black codes as history and tradition relevant to the... Okay, well, you did listen. What did you think? I had fun with it yesterday.
Well, look, Hawaii's law here is crazy. And Hawaii's crazy because whenever Hawaii is challenged on Second Amendment issues, its Supreme Court at the state level puts out things like, oh, we have the spirit of aloha is supreme. But yeah, that was crazy. I never thought I would hear a Supreme Court justice say that Jim Crow laws justify gun control.
I know. It's a moment. It's a moment for people who follow gun law to mark down and say, nobody saw that one coming, and they didn't get that question at the mock oral arguments for the court. Charles C.W. Cook, always good to talk to you. Follow him on X at Charles C.W. Cook with an E at the end. Sarah C. Bedford of the Washington Examiner joins me. I'm about to read my Washington Examiner column from today, next segment, Sarah. But I want to ask you, as a Beltway resident, I'm out in California for a couple of weeks more. What are you doing, given the mixed signals we're getting? You're either going to be hit by an asteroid, or you're not going to be able to open your door because of snow, or freezing ice will make it impossible to get to the Safeway. What are you doing?
Listen, I already loaded up my grocery cart last night. I've got soup, I've got water. You're never going to regret buying necessities, right? So I am on the panic side of the spectrum for the storm.
I always think it's a good idea. Now, can you work from home? Can you turn in copy from home? Are you able to do that?
Yes, unfortunately, COVID killed adult snow days. So I will be working from home if that occurs.
COVID did kill adult snow days. What do you think is the best forecast? What is your operating theory? Because my daughter and my 4 grandkids are debating taking a trip. They're on the southern edge of this thing up to Maine and back to do a little skiing. And I have no opinions because I don't want to get involved. What do you think is going to happen?
I don't know if it's just my social media algorithm that's feeding into all of this fear, but if you looked at my Twitter feed, you would think that this is the storm of the century. The history books will record it. The streets will be littered with bodies. Like, I'm nervous for it, but also nothing could happen. So who knows?
I love the forecast. The snow will be between 1 and 78 inches, maybe, possibly. But what I really hate, as a longtime in-and-out resident, is freezing rain. Have you gone through a freezing rainstorm yet?
Yeah, well, I'm from the South, so a 1/4 inch of ice just absolutely cripples the city. Ice was actually worse, when I lived in Atlanta than when I lived here.
You were there for that nightmare?
I was, yes. I was just a youth. But ice, especially in the South, can be much more damaging than snow. Nobody knows how to drive or do anything when there's ice.
No, you can't drive. That's the bottom line. You can't drive, and the metro doesn't work. So, Sarah, I had Jason on from House Ways and Means today. And the chairman told me that he basically said there isn't going to be a reconciliation. Is that what your reporting is as well?
Well, the Republican Study Committee is keeping the flame of hope alive. They put out this sweeping proposal on affordability that they think can be done through reconciliation. I think it'll ultimately depend on whether the White House ends up backing this move. And Trump and the White House officials have played their cards pretty close to the vest on whether this is something they're interested in. It would be less ambitious than the One Big Beautiful Bill Act, the reconciliation package from last year. But Republicans seem to understand that this is probably their last shot for a few years to get anything done legislatively, given the likelihood that Democrats will retake the House in November.
Well, what Chairman Smith noted is that they can only lose one vote because Massey will vote no. So they have to get it through the Budget Committee. They have to get it through all the committees. They have to get it through the Rules Committee. Got Chip Roy and the gang over there. I mean, is it worth the effort? Do you think it's worth the lift?
It depends on what it is they're doing, right? One of the proposals that has a lot of interest, not just from conservatives, but from a lot of independents, across the spectrum, the potential for broad appeal is allowing Americans to use their retirement savings or their HSAs or all kinds of money that they have tied up places, tax advantaged money for a down payment on a first time home purchase. That would be huge for people in my age group who are saving up to buy their first home, right? If they focus on something narrow that has broad appeal, maybe they can get it through. Right now, the reconciliation proposal has stuff like eliminating the estate tax. It has healthcare reforms. It has those home affordability reforms. So they might have to pare that back significantly if they want to have a shot at consensus.
Yeah, I would like that idea. I think that's a fine idea, and I think Democrats would vote for it. Have you been following the Virginia legislature now? It's all a Democratic state. The very first bill I saw introduced is a death tax of 3.8%. I will not be living in Virginia if that passes. It's like make people leave tax.
Right. And it's not just that. The Democrats, now that they have a trifecta in Virginia, put forward a bunch of really progressive stuff, taxes on services, all sorts of proposals that really fly in the face of the affordability agenda that Spamberger, the new governor, and a lot of those local Democrats ran on. It's actually kind of baffling that they chose that as their first move.
Would you think it's fair to say she's gone full Mamdani?
Well, she's certainly leaning that way because one of the first things that she did unilaterally as the governor was to cancel any sort of cooperation agreements that Virginia had with immigration authorities, which is not something that she ran on, not something that Virginians were even really demanding.
Did she say free buses yet?
Not yet. Give it another week.
I know, because it really is Mamdani, a blonde Mamdani, and we'll follow that space. Sarah C. Bedford can be followed on X. She is with the Washington Examiner, leads the investigative team there, and she's ready for whatever the weather brings, which I, of course, will be covering after the break. Will President Donald Trump punish Iran? Should he? I'll be on Fox and Friends tomorrow morning. I hope you tune in. I have no idea what we're going to be talking about because we don't have any idea what's going to happen between now and then. The news cycle moves that fast. But I hope the column that I wrote for today's Washington Examiner is relevant in tomorrow's segment because the headline, Will President Donald Trump punish Iran? Should he? Tells you the story about the column. Again, it's available over at Washington Examiner. Just Google Hugh Hewitt and Washington Examiner if you agree with it and want to send it along. I read to you again. It's all about Iran. A generally accepted low estimate of the number of innocent Iranians mowed down in the streets last week is 15,000 dead and tens of thousands more wounded and or imprisoned. The regime has not yet hung anyone from a crane, but it's early. In the worst of all metrics, the murder of civilians as a percentage of population, we have 3 prior events against which to measure the atrocity committed by the Iranian regime. The Tiananmen Square massacre carried out by the Chinese Communist Party in 1989, Al-Qaeda's attack on the United States on September 11, 2001, and the invasion of Israel by Hamas on October 7, 2021, which saw 1,200 lives claimed, thousands wounded, and hundreds taken into captivity. The death toll from the April 15, 1989 Tiananmen Square massacre is unknown, but estimates range from a low of 2,000 to a high of 10,000. Even at the high end of the range, that is 0.0009% of China's population at the time. And so it did not have an enduring and perhaps even revolutionary effect on the country. September 11th took just under 3,000 innocents from our 281 million people at the time. By contrast, October 7th saw 0.012% of Israel's population murdered. Iran's grisly math from last week, it's the worst of all. The 15,000 number is 0.016% of Iran's 92 million people. It is an unprecedented slaughter of a nation's people by any terrorist, much less by terrorists answering to the ruling regime. The Tiananmen Square massacre has been displaced by Iran's unmatched killing spree when it comes to a government's own murder of its own people in the post-Soviet Union era. We know why the Iranian regime turned off the internet. This scale of killing has to be done in the dark. What Pol Pot did to the people of Cambodia, a mass killing of millions, went on for over 4 years and was done out of sight, and the ranks were up there with the brutalities of Mao Zedong, Joseph Stalin, and Adolf Hitler. All these regimes eventually fell, though Mao's approach to humanity is seeing a revival under Chinese General Secretary of the Communist Party, Xi Jinping. The death toll from the Chinese Communist Party genocide of the Uyghurs due to Xi's orders is unknown. Credible reports detail mass detention of over 1 million, forced sterilization, forced labor, torture, and indoctrination. Experts cite potentially hundreds of thousands or more deaths resulting from these systemic atrocities in Xinjiang. This, too, was done outside of the scope of the world's vision. Focused in rapid mass murder in front of the world on the scale of what Iran did last week is without precedent. The world knows. We've seen enough to know from the few leaks that have followed, and more leaks will no doubt surface when Iran reconnects to the globe. What will the world do other than condemn? Only 2 nations have the will and the ability to punish Ayatollah Ali Khamenei and his henchmen. Israel has strategic reasons to strike Iran because the Islamic Republic's ballistic missile program was revealed last year to be an existential threat to the Jewish state, one to rival the now obliterated Iranian nuclear weapons program. President Donald Trump ordered Operation Midnight Hammer, which did the obliterating. And only Trump can order the American military to punish the Iranian regime in the hope that it curbs any inclination among the Ayatollahs to repeat the atrocity of last week. To establish this guardrail, and I mean a guardrail, for non-nuclear states seems to be a crucial part of an American president's job. He leads the U.S. and the West. However one chooses to define the belief in the value of individual lives, if it has any value, if those individual lives have any value at all, Donald Trump must act. Nobody but Trump knows what he will order done or when he will do so. His senior advisors are an experienced and clear-eyed group. I hope they urge him to lay down a precedent for what will follow such an atrocity, and that he does so when the regime least expects it and in a way that demonstrates to the world the consequences of such a brazen disregard for life. All right, that's my Washington Examiner piece, and I know a lot of people do agree with it in the world inside the Beltway, but I don't know whether or not President Trump is going to do it. There are risks, of course. There would be risks to our pilots. There would be risks to our ships. There would be risks to the people who support them from the air bases from which they depart. And there would be risks to our allies, especially Israel. But 15,000 murdered people in the street is an event that can't be allowed to be repeated. There's an old cliche. That which gets rewarded gets repeated. If Iran is not punished, they will be rewarded for doing what the Shah did not do when he fled the country in 1979. His army would not turn their weapons on Ayatollah Khomeini when he came back from exile in France. They would not do it. Most armed forces will not do it. China's did in Tiananmen Square. It's a communist regime. They turned off the lights. It was 1989. We couldn't see it. And we probably acted too soon to forgive what they did. And indeed, Bill Clinton let them into the World Trade Organization a mere 7 years later. We're not going to be taking the sanctions off of Iran. They're out of money. They're out of anyone who wants to do any business with them. They're out of ideas, and they're led by a crazy old fanatic who's 86 years old and by an IRGC that doesn't know how to make money except illegally. And there are other sanctions that are not so-called kinetic ones. You can freeze money. You can increase the tariffs on people buying the gray oil in Iran's fleet. But I would like to see something that says, not now, not ever, never again. And that would include obliterating Karg Island. There are 2 other oil terminals that can be gotten. There are RGC IRGC, Iranian Revolutionary Guard Corps camps, and besieged camps all across Iran. We know where they are. Israel knows where they are. I'm sure the president has talked to Prime Minister Netanyahu with MBC, the ruler of UAE, our closest ally other than Israel in the Middle East. I'm sure he's informed MBS of what he's going to do as there are air bases there. But we can't let a terrorist state like Iran conduct that kind of atrocity and do nothing. Again, I urge you to go over to the Washington Examiner website or simply Google Hugh Hewitt and Washington Examiner, and that column will pop up. I'd appreciate you sending it around to your friends and family. You heard me talking with House Ways and Means Committee Chairman Jason Smith earlier today about another possible reconciliation. And if they do that, I can guarantee you one thing. Big Pharma is going to jump on it, which brings me to one of my sponsors, Conservatives for Lower Health Costs, and they have a website at pharmawindfall.com. It's January of 2026, and those midterm elections loom. That's why we're going to do a reconciliation. Voters are watching who stands with President Trump and the progress made in 2025 and who sides with special interests like Big Pharma over American consumers. Big Pharma has an army of lobbyists. They're working overtime to block real solutions. They want to push heavy-handed government intervention in private health care markets, all to protect their profits. New polling from longtime Trump advisor John McClain confirms 73% of voters blame Big Pharma for high prescription drug prices and employers or the private market. They're not to blame. Big Pharma is pushing for mandates that would hike prices for working Americans and gut employer options. Again, not employers, not the private market, it's Big Pharma. Voters see through it. 85% of those polled are concerned that pharma-backed government intervention would increase costs. 80% believe Big Pharma is behind these proposals. 50% and more are likely to support a candidate who protects employer choice and stands up to Big Pharma. President Trump isn't intimidated by Big Pharma, and neither should Congress be. Join Conservatives for Lower Health Care Costs, reject Big Pharma's agenda, support real market reform solutions and lower drug prices, and protect consumer freedom. Visit pharmawindfall.com today. That's pharmawindfall.com today. And I am in the Relief Factor studio. I remind you, if you're watching on the Salem News Channel, you see that good old Relief Factor bag. Took it in hour one. No going up the Implacable Hill today. No going up the Implacable Hill tomorrow because early calls for Fox on both days. But I'll be fine come Friday and come Saturday because of Relief Factor. It works that way. Once you get the levels of Icarian, curcumin, resveratrol, omega up in your body, they don't go away for months, but you take it once a day. Remember, the starter pack is $19.95. And the starter pack means you take 3 packets of Relief Factor with the 4 pills in each packet, 3 times a day for the first week. You take 2 packets a day during the second week, and then you're like me. You're taking a packet once a day at a time certain. Put your Relief Factor next to your coffee cup. Put your Relief Factor in the car that you drive to work. Maybe right now you're driving home inside the Beltway. And by the way, I know you got bad weather coming. Good luck to all of you. Virginia and South doesn't do well in winter. They don't know how to cope with winter. They are not from Ohio. You might have to change a tire. That's the kind of thing, by the way, that will really blow your back out. When you got to change a spare, when you get stuck in a snowdrift, when you're trying to lift the bumper a little bit, that's the kind of stuff that does it. That's why you wish you would have taken Relief Factor. Remember, the starter pack is $19.95, less than $1 a day, but you got to call 1-800, the number 4, and the word relief, 1-800-4-RELIEF. Ask for the starter pack, $19.95. Or simply go to their website, relieffactor.com, relieffactor.com. If you want to hear my interviews earlier today with Congresswoman Lisa McClain, House Ways and Means Committee Chairman Jason Smith, head over to Hugh Hewitt, the YouTube channel, like and subscribe while you're there, or sign up for my podcast, Highly Concentrated Hugh, and while you're there, go get Dwayne's podcast as well, Dwayne's World.